repent, submit, accept, sacrifice. The Woods Are Real comes to us from Gravitas Features and director Alex Lambert, who's done shorts and other projects. This was written by and stars Matt Delapina, and was also written by Sean Christopher Lewis, and the centers around Matt's Jabba, or Joba, however you want to pronounce it. It's up to you. Woo! God, if anybody from the Tuesdays happens to still be around and watches this, they may actually just want to bang their head against the wall for me trying to do that rendition. Do you remember the Tuesdays? It's Up to You. That's a deep cut for music fans. Nevertheless, whatever happened to that band? They have nothing to do with The Woods Are Real, but that just triggered something in my head. It probably triggered people to never listen to me sing again. That's a good trigger warning. Nevertheless, so Matt basically playing the main character, who along with his significant other, Quincy, who's played by, and I'm pretty certain I will screw this up, but I apologize in advance, Chinasa Ogbuagu. I'm very sorry to her if she happens to be watching this. I really hope I got even within the ballpark. They are two very rich people. Nah. They don't have all the money in the world, but they want to help out boys and girls through charity. And that's what you do when you have money. Give back. Baby, come back. You want to make sure that you do good with your money. And who's good? Who's pretending to be good? That's a theme that kind of overrides this whole goddamn thing. And there's Caleb, played by Nick Westfate, who have a sojourn, a pilgrimage into the woods for 3 months, and nobody saw him. Nobody knew where the fuck he was, and suddenly he's just back, and everybody's okay with this. You have his biggest fan. This is Stan, or Stan in the place where you live. Actually, it's his significant other, Jeffrey Omura. Hello, Omura. Who, you know, he's not really in the movie, actually, all that much. It centers around just a few people. And you also have somebody called the Woodsman. In a movie called The Woods Are Real. Oh my God. Campbell Scott's the guy that plays the Woodsman. And basically Caleb says, you know, this pilgrimage would do really good things for you guys. And he says some snide things that I will talk about in the spoiler section. But that leads suddenly to Jabba and Quincy going into the woods. They go to this cabin. Things are not all that great. There are things that get revealed very early on. And then they have to solve this mystery before they're both history. The Woods Are Real tales. Woohoo. So yeah, they're basically lost in the woods, yet they have to figure out what's real, what's Memorex, and all that. And it's a trippy attempt to mesh fantasy and horror and a few other things, Human Centipede, together. And this obviously was an independent film production. That is what Gravitas Features and, you know, XYZ Films and a few other production companies specialize in. That's not bad. You make your living, you do whatever, you give upstart filmmakers a chance. You never know what you're going to get. So basically, to me, this movie was more of a concept that could have worked in a horror anthology than anything feature length. And even with opening and credits, this thing still only ran at 79 minutes and had about enough material for 40. I appreciate the idea, and I appreciate what they were trying to do, but this didn't work like the Astral Woods, in my personal opinion. I thought that had some nice pacing to it, and while the acting isn't bad in this, and they certainly try, this movie was kind of a misfire to me, because it ends up kind of hitting you over the head with some stuff. It feels a little bit like sometimes where I'm just like, okay, stuff's just happening, and yeah, this idea was good, but we're just going to take this path to get there. I don't know. It didn't work for me. It didn't really. There are some messages this movie is trying to send out, and the messages kind of get lost in the goddamn mail and then return to sender address unknown. It is on Amazon for a few bucks, and this is what I encourage from people. Don't pirate movies such as this. Rent them on Amazon or wait until they drop on a streaming service that you subscribe to and give them a shot. And if you don't care for it, then okay, don't seek out anything else that the person does. But if you do, give them a shot, because everybody's just trying to live their dream, not as hard as it may seem. They have to work to get the creed on our hopes as fans. They must lean, even though they're the ones they're putting their talents on screen. No, it wasn't necessarily great. I don't know if I would necessarily call this movie good, but it had moments. It had at least a few neat little ideas. Check it out if you want and see for yourself. I'm going to get into spoilers, which won't take very long. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, yeah, they talk about their charities. Caleb kind of just is a full-on dick about all this stuff because obviously this trip into the woods changed him. And there's an overriding thing about whether Joba actually loves Quincy as much as he does, or if he actually might, be closeted. He admits that he experimented with men, which nothing wrong with that. I'm sorry. If you have a problem with people living as their true selves and being part of the LGBTQ community, AJ Styles, or if you have issues with that kind of stuff, you're a fucking rotten person. As long as they're consenting adults, who fucking cares? It's definitely not against any holy bullshit storybook, which is what this movie kind of references later. And they get to the cabin. There's this double-barred cross, this weird significant thing. There's these chapter breaks with Roman numerals. And, there's a jar with their names on it, and also a jar with Caleb's name on it, almost like their memories or their essence or something was trapped in there. And do people really try their best? Some people, use charity as a way to justify bad things they've done in life and give back and everything and atone for their sins. Technically, if you ever read the Bible, as Reverend Lovejoy once said, if you ever read this thing, technically we're not even supposed to go to the bathroom. So they're in the woods, boom, suddenly, and then they run into the Woodsman. And again, in the movie called, The Woods Are Real. How weird. And then strange things are happening. They have to come to grips with a few things. It turns out that after discussing the possibility of having a kid a bit earlier on, Quincy is pregnant. And suddenly, Caleb is found in the dirt. He's back as part of this. This is after the Woodsman has tried to basically kill them. First, he drugged, Joba, and then took Quincy captive. Quincy ends up killing him, which is kind of hilarious. He ends up killing Caleb just because Caleb basically had to sacrifice him because he loved him from the beginning. I knew I loved you before I met you. Good old Savage Garden. You want to talk about a bad breakup of a musical duo? There you go. Something else. But basically, usually how this works is the wife is left to be part of this group that's in the woods that tried to channel Midsummer by screaming a lot. And actually they're in a cabin and they're just talking all philosophically and stuff like that, and Joba shows up. He assumes that Quincy's dead. He does not know that Quincy killed the Woodsman and decided to basically go up and find him. I do want to shout one particular person in this movie, Teresa Avia Lim, who is fucking beautiful. She plays Anna. She doesn't give it much to say, but what she says, she actually has some pretty good stuff. Like, well, if you're a good, righteous person, we're into that. And if you're just some person looking for a good time, we're into that too. Words to that effect. And then he basically confesses his sins, how his dad loved a dog so much that he killed the dog with a drawstring bag. That's kind of fucked up. I didn't like that. They didn't show it, fortunately, because I really would have had to have downgraded this movie. But, then Quincy shows up, and now that basically the Woodsman's dead, now the girls are the women are freaking out. And then the woods are real, the woods are only us, and they're going to sacrifice their child. Basically, that's where we go. And the child is going to he's going to beat her stomach with a stick until the kid's not alive anymore, because they have to sacrifice something to get out of the woods, I guess. Caleb did, and it didn't work out for him too well, did it? But that being said, they're about to, and then suddenly a voice from high above, or the ADR being dubbed in, says, "Stop!" And it's God, and I guess God just allowed them to have their kid. Or a god or an entity of some point, some description, and the kid's alive, and they're showing off a birthday, or they're showing off some footage from a birthday party, and then also they start reading from the book of Job. Oh boy, let's just beat us over the heads with that. It is what it is, but the movie isn't necessarily something I can recommend. Like, for me personally, I didn't care for it, even though I appreciate what they were trying to do. I have to give it an F, I'm sorry. And I'm not saying 1 out of 10. More like maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10. Has some interesting ideas. This didn't work like the Astro Woods. That being said, I'll check out what the director does a little bit later on. And I'll check out what the rest of the cast does as they grow their careers. And hopefully they take off. So, agree, disagree, what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.